Well, I am super excited to have, should I say, the great Jeremy Slagle?
You
Yes.
don't need to go that far.
But like seriously, when I think about it, you are, one of the top designers around. Just every time I look at your stuff, I'm like, this is pretty cool that I get to, break bread and chop it up with such a talented person. So, Jeremy
Mm.
Slagle from Slagle Designs, welcome.
I feel the same about you, brother.
Mm.
I'm blessed to be a friend, get to hang out with you at conferences and such. So, yep, the feelings are mutual.
Yeah, for sure. I think the last two, Creative South and Circles, we really got to connect a little bit more than
Hmm.
usual, so which I was excited about.
Yep, you get to spend some time with my daughter, I think, at Creative South too.
Yes, yes. That was
She's a
cool.
riot.
Yeah, your kids are awesome. Kudos to you.
Well, God's good.
Yeah.
You never know how kids are going to turn out. You just kind of have to, as you're raising them, just have to say like, what's best for them right now, and
Hmm.
how am I supposed to parent them through this season? And my wife and I used to always joke about the fact that we'd figure out one season, and as soon as we finally figured that season out, they were on to something new, and we had to figure it all out again. So yeah, it's a constant. It's constant. I give my wife a lot of credit. She homeschooled the kids through eighth grade, and then we put them in at the local at the high school level, and they just flourished. It was great. So they got to see both. They got to see. If you would ask my kids like, what's better, being homeschooled or being in a traditional school situation, they would tell you there's pros and cons to both.
Right. Which is a factual statement. I don't think,
Yeah,
to kind of definitively say
yeah,
one is better than the other, I think wouldn't
right,
be right.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
cool. All
cool.
right, so for those, those five people that don't know who you are, kind of give us like a quick Wikipedia, like a short hint on who Jeremy is.
I'm a graphic designer and illustrator. I'm based in Columbus, Ohio. This is my home studio. I work from here. I've been in business as of November, as of next month. I've been in business for 15 years on my own, and I've just been blessed to have a pretty steady stream of work, opportunities to speak at conferences, and uh, I pretty impartial to Adobe Illustrator. I pretty much spend almost all my time there, and had some pretty cool opportunities to share some workshops, some things that I've developed along the way. And I love teaching classes, and I just uh, I love what I get to do. I'm just super blessed. As a kid, I just would draw all the time on everything constantly. I got in trouble for sketching and drawing in my notes all the time when I was little. But I had parents that were super supportive, and they were like, he's kind of bad at everything else. Like his grades are horrible, but man, he's taken off in the art room. And so they were like, this is the only thing he's good at.
Oh
Like he should
gosh.
do this. So I was blessed to not have any questions going out of high school as to like what I was supposed to do. I was super clear.
I think
So
though, like, it's funny. My wife and her sister were talking about this, and I was just kind of like a fly on the wall, kind of overhearing what they were saying. And they were like, they feel like there's an advantage to anyone. It may change along the way, but anyone going into college or in that direction, if they already know what they want to do,
oh, for
they feel
sure.
like that person has an advantage. Of course, it may change along the way, your tweak or courses may change, but they feel like that person has an advantage just knowing exactly, like aligning everything in regards to that career path that they're trying to go to.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, so no,
Yeah.
because they were like, they feel like they didn't even know what they wanted to do, and they were like, oh, Daryl knows what he wants to do, and I mean, they were just talking, sisters talk.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I wasn't really good at anything else. I barely graduated high school. I failed algebra 2 twice. I could barely pass a foreign language class. And I just, as the kid of two educators,
Hmm.
that was tough. But what I love is that it was really, really clear. And I was really blessed to be in a smaller school where people saw what I did, and they like embraced that part of me. So it's actually the portfolio of all the work that I did in high school for our drama team, for school events, for youth group events and stuff like that. That led to my first job.
That's
So
interesting. All right,
yeah,
so
I had a year and a half of junior college, and I went right into my career. So
but and so so you worked while going to school while you were finishing your degree and whatsoever.
yeah, so we grew up, didn't have a lot of money, and I knew that college was going to be on me. So I went to the local junior college here to kind of like get as many of my gen ed credits out of the way, knowing they could
Mm-hmm.
transfer basically anywhere I wanted to go.
Right.
And meanwhile, I took on freelance work and worked at a bakery at the time. And I ended up the summer before I was going to go to real design school, I landed a job at a local company, and I was like, well, I've already got a job, and I'm growing and learning so fast that I just never ended up going to college for design. So,
It's something similar to me, but I was going to school for architecture, but that's a whole nother
oh, hey.
that's a whole nother conversation. So I want to jump into what you already told me that to ask you about was retainers. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's a soapbox there to stand on, so I really want to hear what you have to say about like taking on retainers, not taking on retainers,
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
I, I went out on my own 15 years ago, and all I could find when I would look online for like how to start an independent agency, how to, you know, uh, be an independent designer was like securing retainer, push for the retainer. When a client wants you to work on a project, tell them how much better it would be if they would just, extend it out over a year and pay you over a year, and they'd have access to you and all this stuff. And I just didn't care for that. I started an agency that we ran for 12 years here in Columbus, and we never had a single retainer in 12
Mm,
years because I feel like any kind of a contract like that puts strain on a relationship. Like it becomes an obligation to work with me versus, wow, we worked with Jeremy on this project, and he was so good to work with, and he was so easy to work with, and he was so flexible, and he delivered on time. I want people to walk away from any experience with me being like, well, duh, who else are we going to call? Like,
mm,
why would I want anybody to feel obligated to work with me on anything? In the same way, sometimes it doesn't happen often, but I'll have a bad experience with a client who just doesn't want to work with me in the way that I work. Well, great. I just locked myself into 12 months of having to work with somebody that doesn't respect or doesn't understand the design process. Why would I do that to myself? You know?
mm.
And it seems to me like every time I talk with friends that do have retainers, they go into like this panic mode a couple months before they have to re-up with some of their bigger clients, and they're like, I just, we gotta renegotiate everything, and we gotta figure all this out, and I'm just afraid they're gonna drop me, and it's just like, I don't ever want to have that fear with people. Like, I want you to work with
Mm,
me if you want to work with me, but I don't want you to feel obligated or have to work with me either. There's nothing worse than feeling obligated to have to work with somebody.
mm.
So that's kind of been my whole thing, and it's worked out pretty well. I will say that having retainers kind of streamlines the process. It kind of gives you the ability to kind of look ahead over the next couple of months and kind of get a good
Right.
idea of where you're going to be. But what I always just tell people, like, just save. You're going to have months of plenty. And sometimes, like, I don't know how I'm going to possibly get all this done. And you're just going to be raking in cash. And you're going to have months where it's like, I don't have anything coming in. But as long as you're saving in those times of plenty, it takes a few years, but you just start to get used to it. And you're just like, okay, I'm going to shift and do a personal project, or I'm going to shift and catch up on all the stuff that I should be doing for my business, like updating my website, updating my
Mm-hmm.
proposals, organizing my office, all the stuff that kind of goes on the wayside the rest of the year. So I've
It's
just,
interesting.
yeah, I've just chosen not to do it. And it's worked out fine. So,
Because I'm thinking, like, for me, my type of, if you would call it retainers, are for like more so like digital spaces. But it's
mm,
more like
yeah,
maintaining websites and stuff like that. So that only
I get
comes up
that.
when like there's something to do. If there's nothing to do, they're
Right.
just basically paying like a hosting fee or something like that.
Right. Yeah, and I understand when you have so like almost everything I do, I complete the project and it goes out into the world,
Right.
and there's no maintenance. It was a logo.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they call me back as soon as they get all their branding and stuff, and they're like, okay, we're opening a new location, and we want you to come in, help us with the signage, and we want you to help
Mm-hmm.
us with the interior. We want to work on our website with us. Like, I just don't. I just want people to have such a good experience with me that there's no obligation to feel like they have to work with me.
Mm. I mean, I
You
think it
know?
make I think I get it though. I get it, especially like just the thought of like on either side, like we signed this contract for this period of time, but
Hmm.
somehow either I'm not enjoying working with this client or this client is like Daryl is like too meticulous. I'm not enjoying this. Like I gotta go through like this discovery call every time we start a new project.
Well, and I have yet to see a situation, and I'm sure they're out there. This may be, I just haven't come across it. But I always feel like, especially when it comes time to renegotiate these things, someone feels like they were taken advantage of. Like,
Mm,
somebody on either the client side or the design side feels like they didn't get what they were hoping to get out of the other person for what they were paying, or I went over and above, and I actually like over spent more hours than I was being paid for just to get your stuff done, and they feel unappreciated. And so it's like, for me, it's like, here's the deliverable. It's a brochure or whatever it is. This is what it costs. And at the end of the day, you're going to pay me that amount of money, and I'm going to give you a brochure. Fancy that, you know, versus like, how do you even like, yeah, I don't even, I can't, I'm sure I just can't wrap my mind around how you do that. I'm just so project based that I've always
yeah,
done it that way.
yeah.
And I've
It's
had people
always
that
always
want to put
interesting.
me.
Go
Yeah, and
ahead.
I've had people that want to put me on retainer, and most of the time it's because they want to figure out how to work it into their monthly budget. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have 12 grand right now, but I could pay you that. I could pay you $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, that's not a retainer. That's just a payment plan. Like,
Right.
I'm still going to do a $12,000 project for you. I'm going to deliver it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to put someone on
A
set up
payment plan.
FreshBooks to automatically
Mm-hmm.
send a $1,000 invoice every month. That's fine, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not a retainer.
No, I think a retainer is a little
Yeah.
bit different, and I think
Yeah.
for the retainers that I've ever either just through working at an agency or something like that, I've ever like there's some financial perk to the client by signing on
Hmm.
to this retainer. That's my
Hmm.
idea of a retainer. Versus
Yeah.
like doing this project, there's like this perk financially for the client.
Hmm.
That's what I've
Yeah.
yeah.
I just can't think of many other things in life that work that way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always asking, like, why do designers act that way about what we do? But you would never, in almost any other circumstance, ask your mechanic for the same thing, or ask, a plumber. Like, it just doesn't, I don't know why. I, and we've done it to ourselves,
Yeah, we
you
have.
know?
Cuz
So,
like my AC guy would like guy that looks at my AC, awesome dude, been using him for years, but like just for him to come out, there's a fee.
yeah,
And
and you know it.
it's just like it is what it is.
Yeah. Right. You're not like, hey, I feel like you're, yeah, like, it just doesn't work that way. Like, you take your car to get something fixed on it, and you pay the person, whatever, the mechanic, whatever it costs to fix your car. It's what they do. But for designers, for some reason, it's just like, and maybe it's just creative in general, whether it's writing
Yeah.
or whatever. People just don't. It's probably just they don't see the value in it. They think it's more like, you pulled this out of thin air. You didn't. They don't
Hmm.
see. We don't pull back the curtain enough to help people understand. Like, this is a really, like, this is what I do. You know.
Hmm.
So yeah.
All right, so kind of like I want to work with Jeremy. Kind of tell me how that process gets kicked off. Are you like getting on a call off the jump? What is that process like?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a screening process. If somebody emails me directly through my email form, I send them an email back and say, thank you so much for reaching out. Please go to this form, because it's on my website and it says, let's work together. Sometimes people just, either they don't see it, or they're kind of like, I don't really feel like filling out that form. I just want to send you an email directly. Well, they have to fill out the form. They have to. And it's a little bit of a screening process. Like, if you're not willing to at least tell me a little bit about your project and give me some sort of a deadline, and even tell me like what your budget is, or what you think this is going to cost, then I'm not going to spend 2 hours on the phone with you, or an hour on the phone with you, only to find out that you've been looking at Fiverr for pricing and you think that's how much it's going to cost me to work with me. And I don't mean that to sound like vain or anything like that, but it's like, I found myself taking so many calls and then finding out that they thought that it was going to cost $75, or that it was going to cost $200. And I started to kick myself. So it's like, I've set up the first thing I do is I have somebody fill out this form. What it does for me is I take Zapier and I take all that content, their contact information, and it pushes it to FreshBooks. It pushes it to BidSketch, which is what I use to write my proposals. It sends an automatic email back to them that says, thank you for filling out this form. Here's a link to schedule a meeting with me. I'm pretty much a one-man show. So having a lot of this stuff like automated really works well. So if you're willing to fill out the form, and it's a super short form, then I'm willing to schedule a time to talk to you. And that's where we kind of get to know each other. We'll set up a Zoom call, or I'll meet in person. I'll go to them. They can come to me. We'll meet at a cafe, whatever, a phone call. I want them to hear my voice. I want to hear their voice. I want to hear their intentions. I want to know why they want to hire me. And then once I gather the information I need, I put together a proposal, send it their way. And I always tell them I can consider this a starting point. If we need to make it bigger and we need to add things to it, to the scope, we can do that. If you want, if you're like, this is outside my budget, then talk to me. Let's figure out a way to adjust the scope to be more in line with your budget. And most of the time that works. And sometimes, people's, what they think something should cost is so far out of whack that it doesn't. But I would say most of the time it does. And then we do a deep dive. Once they sign my contract, bring on a writer and strategist. That's part of my proposal. And we get to know them really well. I insist on going to their place of business. I want them to show me their entire process from start to finish. And I wanted to be able to just walk through and hear them talk about why they do things the way they do things. We usually will sit down and have a good meeting with them, as far as like, just get to know you. Lots of questions. My writer and strategist asks just a boatload of questions, and we'll meet with other constituents. We'll meet with clients. We'll meet with, other stakeholders in the process. One of the things that's one of my favorite things to do is I call them field trip meetings. And that is like, especially if I'm working with a food company, is we'll spend a half a day at Whole Foods, or, a place that happens to sell this, the same sort of products that they sell, whether it's a natural food store, or, if it's specifically beer, or like craft brewing stuff, we'll go to a place that's just like, that's what they do. And we just walk around and I watch them pick up packaging and talk about it. I love the way that they just, kept this so clean and simple. Like I see this from across the room. I take pictures of everything, and I come back later and it's like, here's all the stuff that resonated with you, and here's all your comments of why they resonated with you. And now I'm going to tell you how I'm going to, say like, okay, so
Like
here's all the
stitch it
stuff that you said
together.
was super simple. Yeah. Like, and I kind of repackage a presentation back to them that says, here's all the stuff that resonated with you. And I put it in a new order. And oftentimes I do that just to make sure, most of the time it's spot on. Sometimes people will be like, I don't know why I said that,
Mm-hmm.
at the time. But, I use it as just a starting point for gathering information from them, helping better understand their brand, what they're looking for, what they're going to approve, what speaks with the same voice as their personality and their brand personality. And then I usually will add to it some mood boards and some other things that are kind of like, because you said these things, because of these things, and I agree with you. And sometimes clients have just bad ideas, and they like stuff that's not great. It's a good opportunity for me to present something that's a better alternative, but accomplishes the same goal,
Right,
right?
right,
You
right.
said you like this about these things. I'm not sure the way they're doing it works for you, but what about if we did it like this? Because this also solves the same problem. And I get a lot of buy-in at that point, right? And get their feedback on everything. And then once we have our strategy, so usually at that meeting, my strategist is also reading their story, telling, kind of presenting a deck that shows like, their brand story and all that stuff. And once we've got like synergy and harmony on that, then I come back with, usually 3 logo concepts. And I'll have it mocked up on packaging. I'll have it mocked up on the side of a truck, or whatever they happen to do, if they're
Mm.
landscapers or something like that, signage, and just to help people see a logo outside of the context of just like a logo on a white page. um, and then usually it's like they'll pick option B and we're off to the races. So
All right,
that's
so
kind of my process.
I got some questions from like you were on a roll. I was trying to like boom
Okay.
question, boom question. All right, so I feel like for me, what I've ran into is if it's a person that I don't know that contacts me, my
Mm-hmm.
process runs as I usually am. That I have set up. My process is my process. When it's someone that I know well, right? Process never always goes the exact same way. Do you run into that, or you kind of just stick to your process? Because, like, say for example, by the time this episode goes out, I'm with a client right now, so we've already started the project, hopefully. So I have a good friend. It's not a money issue. He's like, Daryl, just tell me what the price is. I'll pay it. But to get him to fill out a form or get him to kind of like, I'm gonna have to just have a meeting and just sit down and talk it out because he hasn't filled out a form.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I have them fill out a form, and like I said, you can go on and see, it's not asking questions about like, there's no like branding questions. It's more just
Mm-hmm.
gathering their contact information. I try if almost every person I work with, I've never met them before. Like that's just the way my business runs. Is
Mm-hmm.
it's almost all new business, and I don't know them. On occasion, I'll work with somebody, but it's usually because they have a client that has a need, and I have an illustration style or a style of for doing branding that they like that matches well. And so usually then it's me working directly with their client
Mm-hmm.
versus working with them. So then I treat that client as if it's just any other client.
That makes
But I
sense.
insist on, even when it's somebody I know, like if we're gonna do this right, we need to at least do the field trip meeting, and we at least need to sit down and I need to hear, because I'm really bad at the whole like throw it on the wall and see what sticks thing.
Mm-mm.
I
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
don't.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not good for anybody. I believe graphic design is problem solving, and if you don't clearly identify the problem, you're not going to come up with a good solution. So,
And they have the information. That client actually has
right,
the information that you need.
right, right.
So,
Yeah. And they're the ones at the end of the day that have to approve it and say, yes, this is great. This is
mm-hmm.
exactly what I wanted. It's kind of like somebody who's getting their home, hiring someone to like redecorate their home, and just saying, you just do what you think is best. It's like what style house do you have? Like, what's your lifestyle like? Like you just can't just decorate somebody's house and paint the walls and put in furniture without presenting something, getting information from them and presenting something to them to make sure you're on the same page. So,
Dude, I love that field trip idea though. Like, I've probably done that probably just digitally, but actually
mm,
going somewhere, if it's feasible, to say, okay, I'll take you to a place where we can kind of pick out different
mhm.
kinds of the thing that you're trying to do. I think that's pretty awesome. How
Yeah,
did you kind of come up with that?
I don't know any other way to do it, because oftentimes I'll be in like, it'll be a craft brewery I'm working with, but we'll end up in like the snack food aisle, and they'll reach up and they'll pull like a bag of chips down, and you can see them like feeling the package, and they're like, you can actually see them touching it. And it's like soft touch finish. And you're like, you like that? Like, yeah, this feels, it just gives it like a premium feel. And then they'll hold the glossy, Lay's bag next to it, and they'll just be like, I don't know what it is, but like, I know these are both potato chips, but these just feel more premium to me. They feel more like us, you know? And it's kind of like, yeah. And it gives you an opportunity to talk with them. It's really hard to hold packaging that you found on Pinterest,
Yeah.
like it's on a screen. And even the ability to take that package and turn it around and read the way that they are reaching out to the customer and telling them about
Mm-hmm.
why their product's so great. Sometimes it's just hilarious. Like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
they're like very, very funny. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just the tone of voice that brand has. And if a client like laughs out loud and is just like, I love this. I love that they're just like getting straight to the point. They're resonating with that mom who's in the aisle right now, and she's trying to pick out the most healthy thing for her kid. And this just makes me laugh. And I just love that sense of humor that goes along with this. While my writer is standing right next to me taking notes, and she's like, sense of humor, this should be funny. But you don't get to that if you're not there, like in that environment. I did a project for, it's on my website. It's called Luna Burger,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a veggie burger. And we were at Whole Foods, and they were already at our local Whole Foods, but we stepped back. And Whole Foods, if you've ever seen the veggie burger aisle at a Whole Foods, it's massive. And there's like Morningstar, and they've got all this, like theirs are this big, and it's front facing, and it's full color, and it's like a burger, and it's got guacamole on the side and fries, and they like did it look real nice. And every single one of these is showing a burger. And I'm just like listening to them talk, and they said like, you know, what people don't understand is like our burger is about the unique flavors that we put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be completely honest, our burger doesn't look that appetizing like on a plate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, well, if everybody else here is showing a photo of a burger, why are we going out of our way to take, because their box is this big, why are we taking so much real estate to show another photo of a veggie burger? Everybody here knows what that is. Let's do something that just really talks about the explosive flavor that is in each of these. And we did a fully illustrated box, and nobody else was doing an illustrated box. And it blew up. It did really well for them. But just asking those kind of questions, the assumption was going in, well, we're going to have to do a photo shoot. We're going to have a veggie burger on the front of this box. And I just am like, why?
Mm-hmm.
You're already in this aisle and you know what a veggie burger is. Why is your photo of your veggie burger going to sell someone on your product any more than any one of these other ones, when that's really not what you're selling anyways? You're selling the flavors that are in it.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about the flavors. So,
All right. So, like, one of the things I believe, like, I feel like if I run into like a bad client, I feel like for the most part, I didn't do something. Like it's my fault why I have a bad client. Either I didn't vet it properly, I didn't have enough filters, or I didn't communicate something right. One, do you agree with that? And two, like, what are some ways you kind of, you know, create some kind of, I know the form is one, but some level of filtering systems, or I know we talked
mhm.
about stakeholders, like kind of how do you kind of alleviate running into like the quote unquote bad client?
I think clients can be bad for various reasons, and you're always going to be better off not working with a bad client than getting the job. And I think a lot of times people take the job out of necessity. I'm having a slow month and I've got to make ends meet, and I need this project. And you often you'll see the red flags and you'll take the job anyways. And I've done that. It's a risk we all take. And I'll be honest, when things are slow, I'm more likely to still do that if I have to. But I think for me, it's really helping people understand that like there's a process to this. And a lot of it's just unlearning what they prior experiences they've had with designers. Most designers are the kind of people that don't ask any questions. They just do a quick 15-minute phone call, and then they just start pumping out logos and sending them to you. And it's just like, or pages full of logos. Pick one. And it's like, did you like rate a clip art library? What happened? Like, none of this talks about, what's unique to us. You clearly weren't listening to us. And so for me, it's like, I need somebody who's willing to go through the process with me. That's why I really lean into this concept of always in tandem on my website. I
Right.
want somebody who wants me to go on the journey with them. And I want somebody who wants to go on the journey with me. And as long as we can both start pedaling and getting in sync with each other, we can go really cool places. But if one of them is just dragging their feet or just doesn't want to be part of the process, it's a real drag.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really upfront with, like, here's how this is going to go. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then I'll meet with you about this and all this stuff. And people, sometimes they'll be like, I don't really need any of that. I just want you to send me logo ideas, or I sketch something up on a napkin over here, and I just need you to do this thing. I just say we're not a good fit. And
Nice.
sometimes saying we're not a good fit will you know it can tick people off, and they can be like, well, you're telling me you don't want to work with me. It's like, not if that's how you want to approach it. And it'll lead to a conversation about, okay, so you tell me how I should be doing this. And I can just say, in my years of experience, this is the best way to do it. And you haven't gotten good results from the last 3 people you called because they did it the way you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So if you really want something done well and you want it done right, you need to work with me to help me better understand your needs. I don't go to the doctor if every time I walk into the doctor, he gives me a shot of penicillin, no matter what it is that my problem is, or gives me, pain reliever for everything. Like, I need the blood test. I need him to check my heart. I need him to, like, look at the weird growth, or whatever it is, and help me identify what the problem is and then prescribe something. And too many designers aren't willing to go through the process. And so unless you're willing to do that, I just won't work with you. So I think that does cut a lot of that drama out of
Mm-hmm.
having that bad client.
You said one
We just,
thing, and I wanted to kind of tap into that because I think that's most of the times where you run into not necessarily the bad client, but the project that you probably shouldn't have. Y'all weren't a good fit. You probably shouldn't have taken on. You said one thing that helps alleviate that is saving. Is there anything else? Because most of the times I do believe that it's because of necessity. And now that
mhm,
I'm in the situation where I don't take on any project because of necessity, like I see the difference. What are some other
mhm.
ways to kind of take on to not have to be in the situation where I need this, so I'm gonna take it. I know there's red flags. I'm gonna take it.
Hmm. Well, I mean, prevention is the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Not living a lifestyle that requires you to to meet a certain amount of money in order to be able to support that lifestyle. Um, I worked with a guy at an agency when I was just starting out, and I was kind of a little bit more of a freelancer at the time. And we were working on a project for Reebok at the time, and I pulled into the parking lot at the same time he did, and we got out of our cars together, and he had this sweet BMW M3. It was just gorgeous. And I was like, dude, that car is awesome. And he said, I hate it. And I was like, okay, tell me more. There's a story behind this. And he said, I worked at an agency for 20 years, and I had that car. I had the BMW M3, and I had it pinned to the back of my kiosk, behind my monitor. And I looked at that thing and I said, someday I'm going to get out of this place. And as soon as I have enough money to buy that car, I'm going to buy it. And that was his motivation for leaving his job and starting something else. Well, he got out, started his own business, and had like a gangbuster first 6 months, like just blew his business just blew up. And so he's like, I'm going to go buy that car. So he takes, some money, puts the deposit down on the car, puts the down payment or whatever, takes out this massive loan for this car, thinking it's always going to be this way. Well, the next 6 months weren't quite as good. And he's like, I'm driving pizzas and delivering pizzas in the evenings so that I can make the car payments on it. And he's like, I wish I'd have just gone and bought a Honda Accord or something, because he's like, I absolutely hate this car now. And it's like, that was a really good early understanding for me. It's like, I want to work with small business owners. I want to work with those medium to smaller projects. And I know a lot of people aspire to like working with these big companies. I've worked with the big companies. It's not as glamorous as it sounds. And I would prefer to work with that entrepreneur, that
Mm-hmm.
person that runs that family run multi-generational business that really, really cares about what they do. Not a room full of people who are wondering what the shareholders are going to think if they make a decision like this, you know? And so in order for me to do that, I got to have low overhead. I work from home. You know, I don't I try to make sure that I'm not having to join the rat race just to support my own lifestyle. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the thing I tell people all the time: keep your overhead low, save, 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 save. And when slow times come, you're going to be ready to. You'll be like, oh, no biggie. I got money in savings account. I'm going to be fine. And it takes a little while to get there, but it really it pays off. So then it puts you in a situation of abundance rather than in a position
Scarcity.
of scarcity, and making decisions out of scarcity. Nobody wants to be in that position.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in that position, and
Yeah. Oh,
like
I've been there
down
too.
to down to the every
Yep.
time I'm like, I shouldn't take this project, and every time I take it,
Yep.
it's like, I shouldn't have taken it.
And hey, listen, I have done my share of, especially early on, my share of, I do not want to work on this project just because if it's a paying project for me, especially when you're first starting out,
Mm-hmm.
take it, do your best with it. It's not going to be ideal, but do your
Mm-hmm.
best. But hopefully you can get in a position where you're not making decisions out of scarcity and you're making decisions out of abundance. And that's always a better place to be.
Sweet. I love how you talked about like just spending time gathering information from the client
Mm-hmm.
and then basically like retelling the client what they just told you. Spend like give me a timeline of how long that usually takes to kind of go through
Um,
that process before you
for
start
my
designing.
so it depends. It depends a little bit on how much time the writer and strategist needs, and how many constituent groups we're meeting with, and all of that. But I would say a matter of a couple of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
typically before I could I can pretty much within 2 weeks of signing a contract be ready to have that phase ready to go,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how many other projects I happen to have going on at the time, and how available the client is to meet with me on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say 2 or 3 weeks of like preparing that presentation to go back to them with kind of like our findings from the field trip meeting, and then the writer having all their content. We present those at the same meeting.
And I think one of the things about that, like just spending the time kind of just talking to the client, hearing what they have to say. One, they appreciate it more, and two,
Yeah.
like I think that's the only way you're gonna find, for me personally, I think the uniqueness of what you're creating. Because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like if I'm doing like say for example for a law firm, like it's a law firm. Like I could just think up in my brain a logo for a law firm, right? But like I need to find something unique about this person, this law firm. So, kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've worked with lots of dentists' offices, and I love one that comes to me and says, "Please don't put a molar in it." You know, I don't want a toothbrush in my logo, and I'm like, thank God you don't want to do something, because if that's what you want, man, there's so many great clip art websites out there where you can get a logo so fast and so cheap. Like they're out there, but that's people when they find out like, oh, this is an investment. Like this is an investment in my company, and this ended up costing me a lot more than I thought it was going to. But after seeing the results Jeremy's able to deliver, and sometimes I'll even tell people like, here's some contacts for some other people I've worked with that are in your field. Feel free to reach out to them and say, what was it like working with Jeremy? You know, or if you see them on my website and you want to go to their website and hit them up with an email, say, hey, I'm thinking about working with Jeremy. I noticed he did your project, your packaging. What do you think? What do you recommend? But And I completely forget what your question was now.
No, it's
What
all
was your
good. I think
question?
I think you answered it. You
Okay,
answered it.
well,
Yeah.
good.
No, you
There you go.
answered it. All right. So two
I
things.
inadvertently answered the question.
It's that subconscious is working when you're not even thinking about
There you go.
it. All right, so
Yeah.
two more questions. One, like gathering reviews. Like what's your process in gathering reviews? And do you do any outreach at all and kind of tell
Gathering
me a little bit
reviews about
like
what?
clients review giving you reviews.
Yeah. So I
Like
have one of the things I've learned on my own, I've learned is I have a library of of email templates that I've created
mhm,
because it's like you get that. I feel like every spring and every fall I get emails from local college students asking if I can be they can intern with me for a semester. I don't do interns, and I won't go into that for a reason. We used to, but I can't do interns anymore. So I just have this like really kind email that I've already written up. I started realizing I send the freaking same type up. I spend 10 minutes typing up the same email every single time, and part of it says like that said, if you'd like to ever meet and do a portfolio review, I'm happy to do that. Come by and see the studio, whatever. So I've just started creating this library of responses. Um, and your question was again,
so how do you gather reviews?
okay, so the reviews. So
Hmm.
one of the things that I do is at the end of every project, I have a canned email and I send it to all my clients. So like I finish the project, I send it to them and I say, we are preparing your project. We're currently preparing your project to post on our website and share it with our followers on social media. The best way we can do that is to gather some information from you. Would you be willing to fill out this short form? And you make a very short form. And part of it is like I want to know like, did you feel like I was timely? Did you feel like you got what you got your value for your money working with me? Did you feel like the partners that I brought to the table were valuable to the process? Like, and it's
Hmm.
it's it's a short questionnaire, but it asks some good questions. And at the end, it has a please type a 2 to 3 sentence review of your experience working with me with a little checkbox below it that says I authorize and allow Jeremy to use this quote on his website or in social media. And they hit return. I get it. I get my review. I can kind of see where my assessment, and then I also have this really nice little piece. So if you look at my website, every single case study I have, every single thing that's in my galleries, it's a quote directly from the client about the process. And then what I do is I have a follow up email. As soon as I get that, I send a follow up email, and it basically says, um, "Thank you so much for sending me, your review. Would you mind taking 30 seconds to give me a Google review because it helps with my SEO?" And I literally have the link in it. I'm like, click this link, and then right below, I've copied and pasted their quote to me, and I'm like, copy paste, give me a star rating, hit enter. So I give them everything they need. They don't have to go find me. They don't have to find the page to review me. It's like, click this link, copy, paste, 5 stars, go. And so I try to do things like that and just make it easier for the client to be able to give me that information.
So I do everything that you do except that first part. Because the reason why I think the first part is valuable, because now when you send them the follow up, they don't have to think about what to write. They just copy and
Right.
paste. Because
That's exactly it.
I need that Google review. So it's just like they just got
Yeah.
to copy and paste what they already said and drop
Yeah,
it in
you already wrote it. Just
there.
copy and paste this. And then like 30 seconds later, I'll get a thing from Google that says somebody just left you a review.
Right.
And then I go on and I respond to it and I'm like, "Thank you so much, Bob. It was so great working with you." You
That's
know?
awesome. I gotta
Yeah.
add that in because it just makes it easy for them. So
Yeah.
do you do any
Clients are
outreach?
busy. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been really super blessed to not have to. And
Okay.
a lot of people think I get most of my work from word of mouth, and I get some from word of mouth. My SEO is really, really good on my website. Don't ask me why. I have some ideas, but I've not gone out of my way to really do anything except it's been up for a long time and I try to update it as often as I can. So I rank really, really high in the demographic of the people that want to work with me. So I get a ton of my work straight from my website, or someone will come across a product that I did that's in retail, and they'll contact my client and say, who did this? Or they'll Google it and they'll find my website from that. And they'll be like, you did the rebrand for Snowville Creamery. Like, we're a small organic dairy farm but we're, based in this other state, and we want you to do what you did for them, for us. So that's the other way I get a lot of work as well. So, but I'm very, very, very blessed and fortunate that I haven't had to do much outreach. One thing I did, what I do, I just said do. What I
Do you
do,
do?
I need a comma in there, is I try to take my extra time when I have slow time, and I like to work on personal projects. And part of it's just me trying to learn a new thing, right? And do those and post them on social media. And I will say, I've gotten a ton of work from doing that. Like, I got a commission from Adobe last year because I went to the zoo with my kids and I did some illustrations of some of the animals at the zoo. And at that time, I was kind of hoping, because I tagged the Columbus Zoo, but I also tagged Adobe on all of the posts. And I'm thinking the Columbus Zoo is going to see this and they're going to hire me to do some work. I never heard a thing from them. They didn't even comment on any of it. But Adobe contacted me and said, we love what you're doing with those animals and how you're using your brushes, and we want to commission you to do a project and all this stuff. And it was like, whoa, that was even better than I thought it was going to be. So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So part of it is, I think it's so hard to say, like, I want to work with this client and I'm going to just keep bugging them and bugging them and bugging them until they
Hmm.
work with me. And it's like, I guess that works.
Hmm.
I don't have the energy. I don't have the time or the bandwidth to do that, but I do like to do personal projects. I am a total pickleball nut. I love pickleball. It's like one of my favorite things. You know that from seeing me at circles. And so I created my own pickleball brand. There's a link to it on my website called Unlucky Pickleball. And I make patches and stickers. And every time I play with someone, meet someone on the court, I give them a patch or I give them stickers. And it's nerdy, but it's actually led to a couple pickleball related projects, which is really what I would love to do next, is get more into that arena with design. So,
I will say though, like I will echo that. I think personal projects has changed my design career, like for the
mm-hmm.
better. Like it's just brought
Yep.
so much work, so much opportunities. Like this podcast is a personal project. Like it's done
Yeah.
like personal projects. I think that is if you're not like the person that wants to like go do outreach, do personal projects, especially about
Yeah.
things that you love.
Yeah. I
It's
can't not create. It's like what I've
exactly.
always done. And I would much rather do that than try to figure out how to cold call places and get to the right person to get stuff, like, or bug people on LinkedIn. I hate it when somebody follows me on LinkedIn or tries to connect with me on LinkedIn, and
And two
then
seconds later.
within I get this copy paste email from them about how they want to work with me, and I'm like, no, unfollow. You know what I mean? Like, so I just see through all that, and I'm like, again, I'm sure it works for some people. I'm not. It just
Like some
doesn't work for
people,
me.
it's a skill in itself. Like I could tell you,
Yeah.
and we talked about it a little bit. You know, Pander. You remember Roxy,
Hmm.
Prima?
Yeah, I know them.
Like
Yeah.
they are like master outreachers. They have that like patent down pat. Like
Hmm.
it's a skill within itself.
Yep. And I think painting murals is a little bit of a different thing too.
Hmm.
But I do think that, yeah, I just don't like, I feel gross being salesy about stuff. And I've just been really blessed to not have to. And again, I
Right.
think part of it is I don't need to make a ton of money. I don't have I don't live a lavish lifestyle. So I don't need to make a lot of money, which is just gives you so much freedom.
It's true. Even though that's still
So
relative, you know what I mean?
sure,
I was
absolutely.
just messing
It
with
is. No,
you.
you're right though. It is. Like, some people think that well, I heard someone the other day, they said the two most driven cars by millionaires are the Ford F-150 and the Honda Accord,
For sure.
because people that
100%.
are millionaires got there because most of them got there because they were frugal,
Hmm.
and they don't have they're not having to spend all their money to
Hmm.
live in a McMansion and drive the Benz and all that stuff. Like, again, I don't have a problem with people that can afford it and do that. I think
Hmm.
that's great. A lot of them pay me to design stuff for their businesses, so that's awesome.
Right.
Uh, but but I think there's something to be said for, just trying to be able to make sure that you have that margin where you can spend time with your family.
Margin.
Be in your church, be an active member of your church, be a good person when it comes to like being connected with your community. Like
Hmm.
if you're in a constant state of having to try to make money to feed the beast, it's not, nobody's having fun.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I trust me. I'm there with you, 100%.
yeah,
And you guys
yeah,
heard it here first. Jeremy's a millionaire. So.
yeah. Which explains my Mercedes Benz sitting out in the driveway. Okay,
Nah, it's a Honda.
dude,
I was joking.
dude, my Honda Accord just reached 10 years this year, and I love that car.
What did I just say? He drives a Honda Accord. What did he
I
just
do
say?
drive a Honda Accord.
What did he
I
just
do.
say?
Yeah, I'm not admitting to anything, really.
Oh, sweet. All right. So one last like businessy questions, and then we're gonna get in some
Hmm.
fun question. All right. So payment process, right? How are you taking? 100%, 50%, 60% payment plan? Like, what is usually your
50
process?
50,
50-50.
50 50, 50 non-refundable upfront, and 50 at the completion of the project when files are delivered.
Yeah. I'm always curious about that. Like I was talking to Kyle, Kyle Court, right? Like currently
Hmm.
now, he's like Daryl, because I went when I was in Columbus, as you know, we were talking. We have to talk shop, and he was like, "Well, now I'm doing 100%, man, all up front." I was like, "That's awesome for you. I can't wait to sit down with you. You tell me all of this, what you're doing 100% up front."
I could see that. I could do that. But I'll be honest, like this is going to sound, once again, this is sound horrible, but like I'm motivated by money. Like I'm motivated by getting a paycheck. And I think that's normal. Like that's nothing wrong with that. You know, we don't go work for free. We go work so we can get a paycheck. And so for me, it's like having that 50% up front is like, that gets me excited about the project. But knowing that I can't send that final invoice till I get the project done, that motivates me to get the project done, and do it well, and then send that other one off. I think it'd be harder for me if I had all that money in the bank at the beginning of a project. It'd give me take a little bit of the motivation edge off for me to complete the project. So
Yeah, currently I'm doing process. So like if I'm doing a logo, I'll do the 50% up front, and then 20% the next, like 25% on the first review, and then the rest when we're finished. So I kind of do like a
yeah.
process. So I have at
Mhm.
least 75% before we're finished. So it kind of
That is the one thing I recommend is if you're doing it, like I don't recommend doing thirds because so much of what we do is so front loaded.
hmm.
And so like it stinks if somebody has a misunderstanding, or they just want to bail on you. The more skin they have in the game, the harder it is for them to bail on you.
Yeah, I had to
So
learn that the hard way. I've had people bail
yeah,
on me, so I had to learn that the
I
hard
used to
way.
do 30, 30, 30, and then I realized I'm like 60% of the way through the process before I even send the invoice for the second 30.
Hmm.
And I've gotten burned that way a couple times. So
Yeah. So, all right, some fun questions. What's that thing that you can't live without that's not your phone?
my pickleball paddle.
This dude is a
Is
beast,
that
though. Like I've seen
is
you in
that dumb?
action. No, I've heard worse things. I think one time when I had Andrew on here, he said a blankie, like a heated blanket or something like that. I can't remember what he said.
Hawk Rattle said that?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
You're asked those kind of questions to Hawk Rattle, you never know what kind of
What's gonna
answers
come
you're going
out?
to get.
That's actually safe. That was actually a safe
There
response.
you go.
All
Oh,
right,
I love that man.
book recommendations. Top two.
Oh, that's good. Oh man, you're hitting me. I'm not a huge reader.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to a lot of books while I
I'm
work.
fine.
I would say I'm just going to throw two out from my favorite author. One is Called to Create by Jordan Rayner. And then he just did a book called Redeeming Your Time, which I really liked as well. Called to Create is just kind of like from a Christian perspective, like why it's important and why we're called to do what we do and why we use it to love other people. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that about that book. And then the other one's just a, like super practical, time management. I don't love reading a million. He does a really great job of curating different concepts from different authors and putting it all in one book, which I
Hmm.
really liked. So that's another one I recommend.
All right. So what's the first hour of Jeremy's day like?
I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to be as candid as I possibly can be. I wake up at 6 a.m. I wake up at 6 a.m. I go out to my hot tub. I do my devotions in the hot tub.
Yo, if this ain't
This is
millionaire
the
moves,
truth.
I don't know what
This is the
is.
truth. This is the truth. Because it gets me away from everything, and I can, especially when it's getting darker, staying darker later in the mornings, like I can see the stars. It just puts me in a cool place. And usually, like right now, I'm going through the Bible in a year,
Hmm.
so I'll put my earbuds in, and I'll just listen to like the reading for that day, and then I just spend a little bit of time in prayer and dry off, come in, have my coffee, and I'm usually, in my chair working by 7 o'clock.
Sweet. That
Yeah.
is pretty awesome. I ain't got the hot tub. I got work on that. I got to talk to my
That was
wife.
our COVID purchase. Like the amount of time our family spent in that hot tub over COVID, just the bonding opportunities for our kids to like just the conversation. What's great about it is there's no TV out there.
Hmm.
There's no computers. There's no phones. It's just like everybody's facing each other and having a great conversation. We laugh and have such a fun time. My son and I built a patio, and I installed the hot tub and did all that stuff. It was a blast. It's great.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. All
Now I
right. So
use it every morning.
what's next for Jeremy?
Uh, I'm gonna get up tomorrow morning and I'm gonna go get in the hot tub. I'm gonna do my devotions. I don't know what's next. God only knows, and I don't. God only knows what's next for me. I'm so content, and I love what I get to do. If I get to do for the rest of my life until I'm unable to do it anymore, what I get to do every day, I'll be thrilled. So I don't really have any lofty plans. I don't have any like clients I'm chasing after. It's just like
Hmm.
constantly praying that God will keep supplying my needs, and He's done a great job. So that's what's next for me. Wake up tomorrow morning and do it all over again, and be grateful for being able to sit in a cool space like this and work with creative people and draw all day. I mean, I just can't imagine anything better than that,
There isn't anything
you
better.
know? So
That's
I'll, I'll
awesome, man.
probably, I'll probably, the next big thing has nothing to do with me being involved, but I'm going to be a grandpa someday, and like, that's going to just
Mm,
totally rock my world. And my
Grandpa
kids are
Slagle.
22 and 20, and we're not that far. I mean, I just turned 50 this summer. So like,
No
I'm not that far
way.
away. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So it's like I'm not that far away from it. My kids are in their 20s. They're both in their
You
career,
guys
both
in
graphic designers.
you guys in Cleveland don't age.
We're in
Cause
Columbus, but that's okay.
is
Don't call it Cleveland.
not
Come
Cleveland, I
on, man.
mean Ohio. My bad.
Okay, there you
Ohio,
go.
Ohio, Ohio, Ohio. The reason why I said
Yeah.
that, I was thinking about Jamal. Jamal.
Oh,
I can't
man.
believe
Tell
how
me, tell
old
me.
Jamal is. It's insane.
Same thing, man. He looks so young. I totally agree.
So, and then you got Lisa, you got Kyle. You guys don't age. It's. I don't know what's in the water in Ohio.
You're living in the wrong state, my friend. You gotta come join us.
I can't do the winter. The winter. No, I can't. I lived in
That's
New York. I
yeah.
lived in New York for a
We
long
don't
time.
have it as bad as we don't have it that bad. So
Well, Jeremy, where can people go to find you and learn more about you?
just go to my website. It's slagledesign.com. And the socials are all on there. The links are there. But, I'm on Instagram primarily. But pretty much, anything that you need to know about me or want to know about me is on my website. I've had the opportunity to work with Adobe and do some, Adobe Lives and stuff like that. And fortunately for you, I've curated all of that so that it's all right there on my website. You don't have to worry about like looking for it on Adobe, as well as other podcasts that I've had the opportunity to be on. I've kind of all that stuff curated on my website, so it's a good place to start.
Dude, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being so transparent. Thank you for just like being an open book. It's been awesome having you on the
Yeah, man.
podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.